Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our EdWeb webinar. My name is Ava, and I am from a company called ListenWise that some of you might have heard of. And I'm going to be emceeing today's exciting webinar. Okay, so as I mentioned, my name is Ava, and I work at a company called ListenWise. And I am here today to talk a little bit about us as a sponsor for the EdWeb webinar today with our new product called LingoLift. LingoLift has been around since August, so it's brand new. And this is a product that was specially created and designed for newcomer and emergent multilinguals. And it goes across all 4 language and literacy domains for grades 2 through 12. And if you stick around until the end of today's presentation, we're going to show you a little explainer video so you can see it in action and get to see how we access all 4 literacy domains to help get our newcomer and emergent multilinguals learning content and language together and get them into that academic language as soon as possible. And we, of course, have a request to quote call to action at the bottom. If you would like to check that out either now or later, please go ahead and go to our website and look for more information there. And now for the fun. So I'm very honored to present and introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Edith Trevino, or Dr. E.T. She is a professional education consultant who I first became aware of, well, maybe not first, but she first really came to my attention because she took a trip to Mexico where you picked up a life-size muñeca. I don't know if she's in the room with you right now, but she was very impressive and she flew on the plane back to the United States with her, that is some level of commitment. And I love that. I was like, this, I need to be connected with this person. So Dr. E.T. is an author, an advocate of language, a mother, a wife, a passionate educator who lives and teaches in La Frontera. Born and raised in Ciudad Acuña, Coahuila, Mexico, Dr. E.T. came to the U.S. at the age of 7. After serving time in the U.S. Army Reserves, Dr. E.T.'s life trajectory changed, leading her to dedicate the past 20 years to supporting English learners in Texas and beyond. And Dr. E.T. holds a doctorate in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in bilingual studies from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, a Master of Education degree from Sol Ross, I hope I'm saying that correctly, State University, and a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from Edinburgh University in Pennsylvania. And again, it is my pleasure to welcome and turn the mic over to Dr. E.T. for today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eva. And that's right. I brought a life-size doll with me. I see so many people here from, oh my gosh, Weslaco, Texas is where I live. And I was just in North Carolina last week. And I see people from North Carolina. I've been to New York. I have been to California. I've never been to Colorado. I see all these states coming up. That makes me so happy. Well, my name is Dr. E.T. My real name is Edith Trevino, Dr. E.T. Oh, wow, from India. I'm so excited. Today's topic is bridging social and academic language for newcomer and emergent bilingual students through text. Through text. It should be tech, not text. But tech and tech are connected. So the objective for today is understand the difference between social and academic language of our students, and also learn how tech supports both the social and the academic language. And then explore practical tech-based strategies for newcomers. And before I kick this off, I just want to say thank you. Thank you. Muchas gracias. I was just in Africa a month ago. I can't remember how to say thank you in Swahili, but it'll come up soon. Erie, Pennsylvania. Oh my gosh, I lived in Edinburgh for 3 years. Thank you for serving bilingual students, multilingual students, newcomer students, ESL students. Every state has a different name, but thank you so much because only you know what it takes to support students emotionally, academically. And so for that, I just want to say thank you so much because all of us here are familia, we are family because we all understand the struggle and the commitment that it takes. So let me move a little closer because I want to give you a hug. Okay, so here we go. Just so you know a little bit about myself. As Ava said, yes, I came to the United States when I was about 6 or 7 years old. Right there on the left, you can see me. I'm the one right there. There's a little circle around me, a yellow circle. I actually started kinder in Mexico and first grade in Mexico. Okay. But when I started school in the United States, they felt that because I didn't understand English, that I really didn't know anything. So I started in the United States to repeat kindergarten. We'll talk about that later. I live in South Texas, Westlake, Texas. You can see the little astronaut there at the very tip of Texas. And if I go maybe another 20 miles, I will be able to see the bridge and the wall between Mexico. I travel all around the United States supporting newcomers. And I actually just came back from Africa, from Tanzania, and supporting students over there. That was the most amazing experience. I was also in the Army, so that's something that I treasure very much. And I have a famous TikTok that went viral, so you should check it out. But that's what I do every single day. I support students, parents, teachers, anything having to do with second language, social, emotional, technology. I love technology. So let's get this party started. Okay. We're going to cover some terminology real quick so that when I'm speaking to you about certain terms, you understand. And most of you should be able to know what I'm talking about. But technology is a bridge for newcomer and emergent multilingual, bilingual students. We have to have it, right? And I remember before COVID, okay, this is way before COVID, as a bilingual teacher, I started getting really involved in technology. And I remember my colleagues saying, we can't use technology with bilingual and multilingual students because they have a lot going on. It's too much. And I couldn't understand that. So I kept pushing for technology, and I realized that our students need it in their lives and in their educational world. So one thing that we have to remember is that our newcomer students, when they come into our classrooms, they come in with assets, okay? This is knowledge that they already have. They come in with lived experience. Sometimes they come in with painful lived experiences, as some of you may already know because of the stories that your students share with you. Coming from other countries, from the journey, right? Some of those journeys are very painful, not to mention long and traumatic. And they come to us with language. All of our children come to us with language. It is very rare that we have students who have not been in school, and it happens, right? But for the most part, everybody comes in with their own language, with their lived experience, with the assets. Now, one of the most important assets for me that I admire so much is the asset of translating. I'm fascinated when children translate for their parents or grandparents with the teacher or at the bank. And all of these assets are so important because imagine us as adults. Imagine me as an adult needing a translator, right? In Africa, for example, or in Germany, for example, and having a child translate for me, that's amazing. So that's one thing that I always share with my teachers that we need to understand. Now, real quick, we need to understand the academic language versus the social language and how to bridge those together. So according to Cummings, what happens is that every student, every child, let's just think about yourself, okay? When you were born, you learned, for the most part, one language. Some children learn 2 or 3, depending who's in the household. But for the most part, let's just stick to one, right? So for example, for myself, when I was born, it took me 1 to 3 years to learn the basic interpersonal communication skills, the basics, like water, drink, ball, if I'm playing or whatever. It's basic 1 to 3 years. Now, from there, it takes 5 to 7 to actually obtain the cognitive academic language proficiency. That is actually the understanding of the learning. So let me give you another little example. Let's imagine that you and me, we go live in, let me think of a country. Let me see. India, because I saw that there was somebody here from India. So let's say that we go live in India, somewhere in India, okay? guess what? It's going to take us 1 to 3 years to learn the basic interpersonal communication skills. Okay. And then from there, it's going to take us 5 to 7 to be at a cognitive level. Okay. Now, what does this mean for us? And what this means for us is that knowledge transfers. We have what's called linguistic connections, right? What I know in Spanish, I know in English. What I know in English, I know in French. What I know in French, I know in Vietnamese. Now, I may not know how to spell it. I may not know how to pronounce it. I may not even know how to, speak it, but I know what it means. So, for example, here is a water bottle, right? If I take this water bottle to Mexico and I show it to people, they're going to know this is a water bottle because we have knowledge and that knowledge transfers. And here's something that I have to, when I have conferences and sessions with teachers is we go through these different activities throughout the day to just help them understand, because if people have not had that experience, then it's kind of hard to understand, right? And so that's why sometimes we might hear people say, oh, we have newcomers, we have bilinguals, we have multilingual kids, ESL kids, whatever we call them in every different state. And you might hear people say they don't know anything. And I have heard it many times, and I live in Texas. And I remember thinking, even as a young teacher, they do know something. I mean, it's not like they come in on a clean slate, right? Now, here's something that I hope you share with your students that is a big deal in the world of education. Cognates, okay? Cognates are words from two languages which look and sound similar and have similar meanings. So I'm going to give you a little quiz right now. Here are the words. Animal in Spanish, téléphone in German, hôpital in French, and cinema in Greek. Okay. Now, I know a little bit of French. I know maybe 2 or 3 words in German. I know 0 words in Greek. But guess what? Because I know Spanish, that was my first language. Okay. I am strong in my Spanish language. I was able to learn English, right? So what happens is when you have students from other countries, and I know what's going to happen, they will tell you the same thing, because my students would tell me the same thing. They would say, Mrs. Trevino, I do not know anything in English. What you have on the board, I don't understand it. Or this passage that I have in front of me, I don't understand it. And I would say to them, look at it and look at words, search for words that look like words in your language. Now, I know your question. Some of you might be asking, well, what if the words are in Greek? Or what if the words are in symbols like in Japanese or Chinese? How are kids going to, make those connections? Guess what, you guys? You can still hear it. Cognates can also be heard, just like in Greek, cinema, right? I don't know how to read it with those words. I don't know that alphabet, but I can hear it. So let's see if you have the answer correct. Here we go. Animal in English, in Spanish is animal. That is a perfect cognate. Telephone in English, teléphone in German. You see the connection? They're similar. They sound the same. Now, not always will they be the exact same thing. And we do have something that's called false cognates. And those are words that look the same, sound the same, and are completely different. Those are party poopers. But I am not going to stop teaching cognates because of a couple of false cognates. Look at hospital, I don't know if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. And then cinema in English, and then cinema in Greek. Okay. So this is a huge connection. I remember attending a conference. It was just a student conference, only students. And these students had never been taught by a teacher of what a cognate is or what it looks like. But when each one of those high school students spoke, them coming in from different countries, they all mentioned on their own. They never said the word cognate because they did not know what that meant, but they knew what it meant without knowing the word. You know what I mean? And they all said that right away they made connections with their first language and with the English language. Because guess what, everybody? Languages are connected. As you know, especially Latin-based languages are connected through text. You can see the words. Languages that are not Latin-based, you can still hear. You know, so let me give you what is the word? Okay, I want to say I don't want to say Hindu. Okay, I met this man and he's Hindu, and I asked him, "Sir, can you give me a word that sounds like a word in Spanish that's a cognate?" And this is what he said to me. He said, "How do you say pants in Spanish?" And I said, "Pantalón." And he said, "Congratulations. Now you know how to say pants in Hindi." And I was so fascinated. So when I meet people that speak Hindi, I always say pantalon, and they look at me like I'm crazy. But do you see the connections? Okay. All of our students have that ability to make those connections. We just need to make them aware. We need to have them search for it. Okay. Now we're going to jump into language register. Language register refers to the level of formality or style of language you use, depending on who you're talking to, where you are, and what the situation is. So when I walked in right here this morning to all of you, and this afternoon, I said, "Hello, how are you? I am Dr. E.T., speaking very professional." If, you see pantalon in Turkish. Okay, so now I know Turkish word. Oh, you see how the connections are made. Thank you for sharing. Now, language register is how we speak, right? In the academic setting or the social setting. And for example, in the United States, you might hear somebody say, "Hey, what's up?" Okay. That means, "Hello, how are you doing?" Right? And so students need to, in Japanese, it could be patsu. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm getting distracted with all the beautiful messages. But I love that you're making these connections, right? So we need to teach our students, what's the difference? How do I speak? And this is not just for multilingual students, right? It's for all students. How do I speak academically and how do I speak socially? And when is the appropriate time? So here are some examples. If I were to say, "Hit the books," we all know that it means start studying hard, okay? The academic way to say that would be begin to study intensively, everybody, okay? Break a leg. Now, break a leg, everybody. I remember the first time I heard it, I was in second grade. And we were going to go outside and we were going to have a field day running outside. And my teacher said, "Break a leg, everybody." And I thought, oh my gosh, they're so mean here in America. And one of my little friends said, "It doesn't mean to break it. It means she's wishing us good luck." Okay. So the academic equivalent is wishing you success. Now, what about the one, "I'm beat"? Okay. That means that I'm very tired. The academic equivalent is "I feel fatigued or exhausted." Now, here is the secret. When we go back to cognates, here's what I want to share with you. Academic words, okay, cognate words, you will find them in all content areas because they have many similarities. Okay, so now we're going to get into technology. Okay, why is technology, why does it matter to newcomers? Okay, now I don't have it here in this presentation, but if you go out there and you search on YouTube, "The Hole in the Wall," that was a research study of technology and how powerful it is for students that don't know the language that we are teaching. It's very powerful. And I think it was that research that changed the way I view technology way before COVID. So technology helps us because it helps us understand and see the culture and the language shock. Okay. Even for me, I am Mexican. Now I can say I'm Mexican American. And when I came to the United States, in Texas and Mexico they share a river. Even though there were people that looked like me, still the culture was very different. Okay. The language was very different. And those are things that I had to learn for example, to not get offended, like when somebody said break a leg, right? And so what does technology do for us? It helps us bridge those connections, right? To help us understand, because as my bilingual ESL multilingual students, we are visual people. And in reality, for those of us that are not bilingual people, everybody appreciates a visual, right? We like to see. That's how we learn. Okay. If our students have limited academic vocabulary, because that's something that happens also in homes. I remember myself growing up as a little kid, my parents never used academic words. The words were very basic. So, for example, in Spanish, they would say, tráeme la cosa que está allá. And it translates to, bring me the thingy that's over there, under the whatever, right? So everything was called thingy, under, whatever. There were no terms. Okay, I would not hear the word shelf or the drawer, things like that. And so what technology does is it exposes us to those things. And then as visual learners, we need to scaffold. We need that visual support. So imagine if I'm telling my students that I want them to be quiet. And I'm doing this. I need you to be quiet. If they don't understand me, going to understand me. But if I have a video where we say, oh, we cannot hear, we start doing these visuals, right? And then that helps us understand. The most important part is that technology activates prior knowledge. Okay. It activates prior knowledge, because if me as a teacher, I'm speaking about glasses, for example, this is a perfect example. If I say, okay, boys and girls, today we're going to learn what it takes for a person to wear glasses, right? What constitutes wearing glasses? What helps somebody realize they need to wear glasses? And if I'm thinking of cups, right? But if I say, boys and girls, glasses, these are glasses. Then the student makes the connection. Oh, she's not talking about the cup that I drink with. She's talking about glasses, right? And so then we make those connections, right? We make those connections because to me, a certain thing means one thing in my country also, or maybe I'm just making the connections because in English we have so many words that mean the same thing, or then they don't mean the same thing, but they sound the same, like eyes and ice, right? Things like that. Okay, so technology is a must. Is a must. Now, one thing that our students struggle with, and I speak for myself, and I know this also because I work with many, I would say thousands now, elementary, middle school, high school kids. And I'll use an idiom for fun. And last time I was in a school district, it was middle schoolers. And I asked them, boys and girls, what does it mean when somebody says water under the bridge? And out of those 65 students, they all said, oh, it means that the water is running under the bridge. And I said, okay, no, but it's an idiom. It means something. We couldn't understand, right? And so what technology does is that it shows us examples, right? What the person said, what it really means. So for example, if I say hit the books, break a leg, beat, me as an English language learner, I am listening to what you're saying literally. Hit the books. Oh, the teacher wants me to hit the books. Oh, break a leg, like me in second grade. My teacher wants me to break a leg. How mean is she? Oh, I'm beat. Ooh, we're going to get beat. Don't hit me. Okay. So these are things that we need to remember, because for us, it's natural, but we need to understand that for students, it's not the same. Okay. And it happens even to us, right? As English speakers. Okay. So technology, what does technology help us with? So technology offers visuals, audio for clarity. Okay. One of my favorite tools is that it also uses translation tools. Now, there's a lot of different conversations on translation. Some people believe you shouldn't translate at all. Some people believe you should translate. And it kind of, to me, translation happens when we are in need, but we don't want to translate everything. Like, we don't want to take the assignment and get it all translated, because then the child is not going to learn English. But first we start reading it on our own with the knowledge and the information that we have. And then we try to search for those cognates. Okay. And then we can start translating those specific words that we may not know. One thing that I love to do with students, especially when you go to some of the platforms, some of the Google platforms, voice to text and things like that, is that we can try it on our own. And then let's see, what part of this did I get correctly? What part did I get correctly from what I believe that I translated, right? Now, technology is also very engaging and interactive. A lot of our children, I would say all of our children today, everybody uses technology. That is their way of living, okay? Every student, even if it's a 2-year-old, if you give them a tool, a technology tool, they will figure it out, okay? So one thing that I want to make very clear to all of you is that you as a teacher, you don't have to be an expert in technology, because that's sometimes research shows that the reason people are afraid of technology, especially before COVID, is because, number one, technology is always changing. So right now you could be on this website, tomorrow you come in and the website has totally changed. That's the way technology is, because it's always changing. It's always getting better. Just think of a car that's a 2020, right? A car that's a 2015, okay? And you get a car that's a 2025. It's still the same car. It still has wheels, but the technology inside that vehicle has changed, right? And so that's what technology does. So I'm going to share with you a story, because I'm a storyteller. When I started using technology, this was in 2014, everybody. And the reason I jumped into technology, I forced myself, because I was terrified of technology. I only knew how to use an email. And so I applied for this grant. My classroom won some iPads, and I was so scared. So I remember, and I won't share the website, but it was a website. And this is what I shared with my students. I said, boys and girls, everybody, you have this app on the iPad. I want you to click on it. They were in groups. I said, and I'm going to give you 20 minutes to figure it out and give me a presentation on this app. Because from there, I'm going to choose the 2 technology champions for the month. I did not know how to use that app, but I knew that I wanted to challenge my students, because for me, everybody, I was just so down and out with hearing all the negativities that our students don't know anything. They don't know anything, and so I wanted people to be like, wow, those are the bilingual students. Wow. In 20 minutes, we started our presentation. I was blown away with how the students, they learned it. And then as they were presenting, they were teaching me things I didn't even know. Now, as a teacher, you can say, oh, good job, I knew that. Or you can say, oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that with me, depending how you are, right? So you do not have to know. When you're trying to get students to log in to specific devices, and this is something that happened to me too, because I'm old school, guys. I'm from the 80s. I went to school in the 80s and the late 70s, so you can do the math. And I remember what I did is I created a little card that had all the steps on how my students could log in to this application. And they stuck it to their journal. First day, they were looking at the little document to log in. Day 3, nobody took out their journal. And I was like, why didn't anybody take out their journal? They had already memorized how to log in, how to do all these 20 steps. So what I'm trying to say to you is, when you are issued technology or somebody shares it with you and you're scared, please don't keep it away from the kids. They will learn it. I don't care if they're 5 or 18. They will learn it. You can put up a team together and they will teach you, and you will be amazed at what this does. Okay. Also, technology is a safe space to practice language. Okay. There's a lot of tools where you can speak to the technology. You can if you speak to it, it types, or you can record yourself, even when kids are creating social media videos. Why is it a safe space? Because it's just the student, and they can click it, or they can delete it, or they can edit it, and they can practice. They can hear how they sounded. Oh, I pronounced it wrong, or whatever. That's why it's a safe space. Okay. Teacher tips, right? Model the expectations, right? It's okay to be vulnerable with kids. It's okay to say, boys and girls, I'm a little scared of this technology. Or it's okay to say, boys and girls, I'm an expert, but this is what we're going to do today. And I'm a part of it too. Okay. They have to see that we live it and that we breathe it. Okay. We have to model those expectations. We have to show them, right? Something that's a big deal are sentence stems for students, because sometimes I remember learning English and I didn't know how to say certain things. And sometimes I was thinking it in Spanish, and then I was translating it in English, and then it was not coming out correctly. Okay. It was like syntax errors. So just a lot of repetition, visuals, sentence stems, and build confidence with praise. Great job. I see what you're doing. You know, as immigrant kid, sometimes kids, and I say this from experience, are unseen. Okay? First of all, we want to be unseen because we feel like we don't fit in. I remember I used to think I stuck out like a sore thumb. I just did not want anybody to see me, anybody to know I existed. If I made a mistake and nobody noticed, I was happy about it. But we build confidence with praise that, you know what, it's fine. I made a mistake. It's fine. I make mistakes all the time. Because here's one thing that I'm going to share about newcomer students. And I know that I'm probably speaking for all newcomer students. Most newcomer students from other countries are raised to be 1,000% respectful and never share that there was a mistake. And that means like an adult, right? So for example, if I, as a teacher, if I would make a mistake as a teacher, my students would not tell me. They had so much respect, which is beautiful. But I remember explaining to them that it is totally fine to make mistakes. And you can tell me when I made a mistake so that I could learn from you. And so when I see you being confident, and I see that you made a mistake when you're trying, that's part of learning English. Is totally fine. Okay. And we celebrate small wins. Okay. Every single day your student walks into your classroom, that is a small win. Every single time. Now, what kind of technology supports should we use? Okay. These are little activities. Yes. Yes. And thank you for that comment. You know what I had to do with my students, because they would not ever let me know that I made a mistake, that I actually had to put up on the board a little contest name. I would have my name, Mrs. Trevino, and then I would have their name. And I would say, boys and girls, if you catch me making a mistake, let me know, and I will give you a point. And then if you have so many points at the end of the year, you get a prize, right? Because they had so much respect. They were not about to tell me, ma'am, right? Okay. So we social language, we have casual questions or icebreakers. And if we're using technology, they can create their own social language skit. Okay, everybody, we are at a football game. And here's one thing that I also want you to remember, I want to remind you. Things that are very normal for us are not for students, okay, for some students. I remember when I was a high school senior, I ran for homecoming. I got Duchess, by the way. And it was held on the football field on the grass. And we were told we had to wear long dresses. And I could not wear a long dress. How are you going to wear a long dress to where there's grass? No, I refused. And I remember I wore a fancy little dress, but it was below the knee. now looking at it, it's totally normal. It's an American thing, right? I remember having a newcomer student in middle school, and she already became a teacher. She reached out to me about 2 years ago, and with permission, I remember I would talk to my kids about football games because my husband was a football coach. And my students were like, what is a football game? They knew football, which is soccer. And this student would always ask me questions. And I said, you've never been to a football game? She said, never. I got permission from her mom and I took her to her first football game, right? So even when we're explaining to students, okay, we're going to have an activity where we're speaking social language on, we're all at a football game. We're using the technology to show them this is what a football game is, because, some of us do not know that. Okay. And a lot of it has to do with culture. We don't do those things in my country, right? Academic tasks. They could have academic tasks summarizing using vocabulary and context. Collaborative missions. This is the funnest and the best. Group work in breakout or digital platforms. And some of my words are missing here. I don't know what happened, but collaborative missions where our students are working in groups, because that is how we help each other. So now, technology, do not leave home without it. Now, I had a teacher tell me once, because I offer many technology sessions here in Texas and beyond. And I had a teacher share with me, I am not into technology. I don't know technology, ma'am. I said, yes, you do. She said, no, I don't. I only know my emails. I said, ma'am, do you have a cell phone? She said, yes. I said, what do you do on it? She said, I send text and I answer phone calls and I search the web. I said, you know technology, right? So everything starts just with that openness. Technology is a mindset. It is not a skill set. And we don't need to be 1,000% professionals at it. All we need to do is have an open mind and have our students jump in. And then we will make things happen for our newcomers. So we are right about at the time where I can answer questions. Now, I hope I can hear from all of you. You can find me on all of the social medias under Dr. E.T. on the border. If you message me, I will always respond to you. And let's connect, because I want to learn what you're doing, because we learn from each other, right? And one thing that I shared at the beginning is that I was not a technology person. I forced myself to become one in 2014. And you know what the best thing was? That when COVID happened, I was already a techie. Imagine if I would have been afraid to jump in. So any questions? I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to put some questions up on the screen. If you haven't had a chance yet to add them to our Q&A, you can still do that. So I'm going to put our first question up on the screen. Should I be allowed to pull out scholars from core content classes in order to execute ENL sessions to teach English language acquisition? I've been told recently that I must only pull out scholars from specials, which would be gym, art, dance. But for entering emerging scholars entitled to 90 minutes a day, they don't have all have 2 periods of specials. My question is, should this be happening?
Okay, and my question would be, what state is this from? Because every state is different. Sometimes depending on, this is in my same state. Okay, so let me understand that if you're trying to pull out students to be in your basic general class, right? They're asking you to take them out of PE, music, art. Is that what I'm understanding, Miss Ava?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. Yeah, that you're taking them out of what they call specials. So sort of any kind of.
Well, sometimes for me personally as a teacher, sometimes those special classes are all the students have to look forward to, right? And so one thing that happens in Texas is if our students don't do well, they don't even have those fun classes. And I'm in Texas, right? Eva, I think it's in New Jersey, but so can you put the question back on just so I could look at it again?
Yes, let me see if I can put that. I don't know if I have.
So the question, what you need to find out if this is, I want to say law in your state, because there's certain laws that we have to follow. so many minutes and things like that. But if they don't have the 2 periods of specials, then how are we going to be able to ever take them out, right? Um, so if you want to know like the legality of that, I would look it up under every state has their, well, I don't know anymore, but every state has their own educational, Texas educational for us, that you can find out. But I like to have my students in my core classes. Okay. Um, when you speak of ENL sessions, I'm thinking those would be like ESL courses for us, right? Like support courses. Here in Texas, we can do that. We have our, and I guess that's where I'm getting caught up with the verbiage. But if you message me and if you email me your question with your state, I can look up the answer for that, because I don't believe this is from Texas.
Okay, sounds good. Get in touch. Let us know what state, and it sounds like a couple of other people had that experience as well. So go ahead and
Yeah.
reach out and let us know when they're
Because our kids, I don't know, to me, the special classes is when you see, here's the thing. In the special classes, that's where students learn their social skills. And if they are never in a social setting, if it's always academic, how are they going to learn the language, right? So, it just depends on the state and what they allow.
Great. Okay, let's move on to another question. What are your recommendations for supporting and helping a student learn who has just arrived to the US, has little English language, and has only a kindergarten education and is now in upper level grades?
Okay. So I will share with you that recommendations to help students is they have to keep listening and looking at the language. So if the student's going to watch a movie, for example, watch it in English. Make sure the captions are in their language so they can make those linguistic connections. A lot of singing helps, because when we're singing in the English language, it's helping us with our communication, and then it's also helping us make those connections. So this student is going to need a lot of visuals. He's going or she's going to need a lot of sheltered instruction where you're using visuals, pictures, making connections to their first language. And even though the student has a kindergarten education, the important thing is that they do have an education. So I don't know what the language is, but they do have a foundation. So it's going to take just a little bit longer, but it's going to take a lot of support with having to do with a lot of visual support, with a lot of audible support, pictures and drawing, just to make those connections. One thing that I want us to remember is that sometimes kids feel like they're not smart. Okay, imagine us in another country, we would feel like, what's going on? So also, like Krashen, the theorist, says, a lot of support. Yes, wow, look at you. You already know how to say this sentence in English. Let's start with the basics. Okay, and I'll share with you what the teacher told my mom when I entered first grade. She said, make sure your daughter is watching TV in English. And that was like in the 80s, guys. Okay. So that was like the big old square TV. Some of you young people are like, what is she talking about? And make sure that she's listening to English songs. Okay. And if this student is around other students who speak English, they will learn it. They will pick up the language. I mean, I just came back from Africa, and all of the children speak Swahili and Maasai. Every student in that school spoke English. I was amazed. And and so children will learn as long as we keep pushing them. And the secret is the motivation and the inspiration. Okay. Put them with kids that are supportive and that want to help, and they're not going to be making fun, things like that. So, and make those connections. Okay. Remember, they all come with knowledge to just help build him up or build her up.
Great. I'm going to move on to another question we have here. What are some best practices in supporting MLL students with reading practice, specifically using technology?
Okay. Oh, I love that question. Now, I actually made a TikTok about that yesterday. That's crazy. This is what I share with students and with everybody else. If you know a first language and you can read in that first language, guess what? You can read in any language as long as you can read the letters, okay? Because I can't read Japanese, I don't know the symbols, because sounds are very similar. In technology, what I love is there's programs out there that you can read, the child can read, and you can actually play it. So it plays it out for you. I'm reading what I'm reading, and then I can play it, the reading practice, right? The computer, the technology itself will play what the student is reading so that they could hear it. And that's how we make the connection. Oh, I pronounced it wrong. Oh, this is how it, how we say it. And so that is one of the best ways to do it, is to have students read, because they're in a safe space, right? And technology allows them to go back to read the beginning, to listen. I know as a teacher, when I would have books that I would read to my students, for fun, I would say, boys and girls, do you want to hear Mr. Trevino speak, or do you want me to put it in a British accent? And they would say British accent. And so I would play British accent, and it was so much fun. But listening to it from other people, especially from the actual technology, is amazing.
Terrific. Okay, next question. This rapid fire. Could we also use translanguaging to translate?
Oh my gosh, you are touching on my favorite topics. Translanguaging and code switching. Okay, so some of you are like, what is that? So translanguaging is when I'm speaking two languages at the same time. So for example, hola Eva, how are you doing? Nombre, yo estoy aquí in Texas. It's so hot, pero I'm hungry. Yes. Okay, like Dr. Jose Medina says, it's a language repertoire. Whatever it takes to make those connections with kids. And sometimes if you translanguage, it actually helps them feel better because they feel safe. Wow, this person knows my language, or they're trying to learn it like me. So yes, absolutely. There's no rules that no, you cannot. And if somebody tells you no, say, excuse me, are you the language police? I am trying to help my students succeed. So thank you, Isela.
Yes, I think translanguaging feels like a warm hug. That's my personal feeling.
It does.
Okay, what are your thoughts on translating assignments, but also providing the English version as well?
Yes, we have to provide the English version because we want them to learn English, right? I've been in school districts where they keep that one language forever and ever and ever. And in Texas, we call the students lifers, which means that they are for life in that first language. They never learned English. And it is unjust because they graduate high school and they can't find a job. So we have the translation, but it has to also be in English, right? And then we're slowly taking away the translating because we want them to do it on their own. Okay, so yes, for sure, always show the English version, because when you're showing the English version, you're actually having them see the connection. Do you see the connections, English and this other language? What do you see in that sentence? Oh, this is like how we say it in my country. Okay, you see how language is connected? And then that helps them become braver. Because I've been in districts where teachers tell me the kids want everything translated. Everything. Well, no, they have to try it. Now, yeah. So thank you so much, Dia.
Okay, and the next two questions, I have an answer for this, but I'll also open it up to Dr. E.T. And I'm going to kind of go rapid fire because they're sort of similar. So what platforms do you recommend for students to develop oral and academic language? And then the next one is, how might you suggest we structure lessons using tech for classes that include some ELL students, but which also may contain many native English speakers? Do you have any particular effective tech examples, sites, or tools that you can share with us?
Okay, so do you want to answer that first?
Sure. So
Okay, yes,
my
yes.
answer is going to be
Yes, listen
ListenWise or
wise.
LingoLift.
Yes,
So
that's right.
I'd love to talk to you all about that. And if you stay for just I'll let Dr. E.T. answer it. And then I'm going to go into a little video that'll give you a snippet of what you can look forward to if you use ListenWise and LingoLift together. But it's really well designed for a class with mixed English language level proficiency levels. So if you have native speakers, ListenWise is great for that, using real world audio to teach literacy. If you have English language learners who are kind of in that middle band, our ELD lesson library has the appropriate supports and scaffolds in order for you to access real world audio that you're also sharing with your native speakers, but in a way that's appropriate for your middle level. And then
Yes.
LingoLift is designed for newcomer and emergent multilinguals, and it uses all four literacy domains. So you can be potentially teaching something like, let's say you're covering space, since we've been watching this beautiful space themed presentation. For your newcomer and emergent multilinguals, you might have them working on the space collection, which is going to be going over vocabulary that they're going to be some of the academic language that they're going to need to acquire to understand conversations about or subject matter about space. And for your English language learners, for the ELD lesson library, and for lesson-wise general education lessons, we have a lesson on phases of the moon. So each of them can be approaching this subject matter in ways that are appropriate for them and with the appropriate scaffolds, but they can all be on in the same content area. So that's my short
And
answer.
and
And
I
I'm going to
love
pass it back
because
to you.
because you can connect it to the speaking, the listening, the reading and writing. And so in Texas, that's what we test for, right?
Mhm.
And so to me, if I walk into a classroom and there is no technology, okay, that breaks my heart, because newcomers, that's how we learn. Okay. And for me, as far as tools, listen wise, of course, but I do have two tools that I use just for speaking, and it's airpanel.com, and really it's virtual reality. You just go and search whatever country you want, you click on it, and you see 360 view, and then you can have kids speak about it. What do you see, right? And 360 cities .com, I think, or .org, I can't think of. But again, to me, I'm really big on having students look at the visuals and then try to speak, right? But if we're going to be talking about the actually practicing the speaking, reading, listening, and writing, and what I love about Listen Wise is that you can hear, because in real, and it's gonna be real as how people speak, right? And making those connections between the social and the academic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier about the idea of listening and then reading along as you go. And that's what's so
Mm-hmm.
great about our transcript options is that when you're
Yes.
listening, you're able to follow along with that transcript in the little kind of karaoke style,
Mm-hmm.
some of my colleagues have called it, where you can kind of see the highlighted words. And you mentioned the real world, a lot of podcasts are conversations, and that's pretty real world, right? That you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
people with different accents, people with different speech patterns. People are going to be having a back and forth conversation instead of just a presenter style conversation, because that's important for
Yes.
them to have access to. We had a question. Can you repeat the VR one again? What was that tech tool that you
Oh,
liked?
it's three air panel, AIRPANO.com, air panel.
Air pen.
Let's see,
Okay.
AIRPANO. Let's see, is there a chat here where I could write it?
Yeah, the attendee chat right in that middle area.
And then the other one is 360cities.net.
Oh, thank you,
So let me
Tenda.
airpanel.
Wonderful.
And
So
this is
just
this is just
oh,
fun. Yeah.
perfect. Okay. And that's yes. So just to wrap things up, you're running short of time. Thank you all so much for the questions. If you have any other questions, please reach out. You can follow Dr. ET on any of these platforms. Reach out to her with your questions or comments. Thank you so much for being so active in the chat. Really appreciate it. And then, oh, yep, there's your email. And real quickly, I'm gonna go to this slide here, and we're going to go ahead and play a very short 90-second video telling you about how you might use LingoLift and ListenWise as a tech tool in your classroom to support your newcomers, your emergent multilinguals, but also all of your students.
Every journey begins with the first step. Start your newcomers and emergent multilinguals off on the right foot with LingoLift. LingoLift is designed to help newcomers and emergent multilinguals build survival, social, and academic language quickly through our unique watch, learn, speak instructional sequence. Lessons offer newcomers the opportunity to practice all four language and literacy domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and receive immediate feedback. Here's how it works. LingoLift includes thousands of short, interactive video lessons that build foundational language for a variety of relevant conversational and academic topics. Curated collections and a searchable library allow you to find the right content when you need it. And our built-in formative assessments and data dashboards provide teachers with timely insights to inform instruction and address specific student needs. Speech recognition allows students and teachers to review recorded speech with feedback on pronunciation and fluency. Teachers' guides include proven instructional strategies for interactive activities before, during, and after viewing videos. Plus, our flexible instructional design makes LingoLift a great solution for all classrooms. LingoLift offers your students a helpful bridge to learning academic language and content on ListenWise. Find out how you can bring LingoLift into your school or district. Request a quote at listenwise.com.
Great, and thank you. I see some people are reaching out about more information about starting a free trial or requesting a quote, and so I will direct you to listenwise.com. And up in the right-hand corner, if you're interested in ListenWise and LingoLift or just LingoLift, go ahead and click the request quote. If you want to just try out ListenWise, though, you can start a free trial right there, self-serve. So you can go ahead and check that out now and get started on your tech journey over there. And thank you so much again for Dr. E.T. for leading this wonderful presentation and webinar. I hope you all found it fantastic. Oh, someone asked for the slide again.
Yes.
Which
Put it
slide?
back.
We'll go back, but I'll just wrap it up here, and then I'll hang on a little bit longer in case anyone has any questions. But thank you so much, Dr. E.T., for a wonderful presentation and webinar. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here speaking with us today about this really important subject. And no matter where you are in the world today, because we've had so many people from all over, have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and please check us out at listenwise.com. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.